listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
Are we living in strange times or what, folks? I am in the garage. I have closed the door. This is the first time I have been alone in 26 days. It's very strange. The little things you take for granted in moments like this, you know. You love your family. You love the people that you're with. But in normal life, you have these moments where you're in the car, you're going somewhere, you're going to work, you're coming back from work, somebody else is going, and here and there, and there are little snippets of time that you get to yourself. You don't have that now. And so I was very clear. We sat down and said, look, if you need quiet time or time to be alone, we have to say it. So I told Rachel, I said, look, I have to go to the garage and at least do a normal 91 Reasons show because I haven't done one in 3 weeks. Normally I try to do at least one a week, if not more. And I haven't done any. We've done the shutdown diaries, which are keeping us going as far as creativity and doing something with our time other than the work that we do and the, housekeeping and that stuff. But recreational, there's zero. Watch a movie, play a video game. I've watched a lot of movies, usually late at night. Everybody goes to bed and then I put a movie on just because it makes me feel normal. And I was watching a movie last night. I was watching Stakeout with Richard Dreyfuss and Emilio Estevez. It's not a movie I knew real well. I'd seen it before, but I didn't know it real well. I didn't know it was directed by John Badham. I enjoy John Badham. He's done some great movies. He does movies that are like character-driven with a little bit of action, like The Hard Way or Bird on a Wire, that sort of thing. Stakeout's a good movie, but the thing that got me the most was when the movie ended and the credits rolled, and it was where the scene of them leaving the scene of the crime, everything has been resolved, and the camera holds and shows the people sort of mopping up, and then the credits roll. That sort of life is going on behind the credits. And that's when a wave of nostalgia washed over me because I miss going to the movie theater. I love when the movie ends and the credits roll. I sit through the credits. The credits roll and I sit there. It's a sign of courtesy. It's a sign of this is part of, for me, the movie-going experience. So I sat there last night in my living room, in the dark, watching the credits for Stakeout, a movie that came out 30-plus years ago. I just felt hollow, like a chocolate Easter bunny, where it looks good on the outside, but inside there's not much going on. I felt friggin' hollow. Yeah, it was really weird. It was really weird. But I wanted to talk about a couple of movies that I've seen during this lockdown, quarantine, shutdown period. The first two are related, and they're Murders in Big Houses. I sat through Knives Out, and Knives Out is Rian Johnson, and I don't have this hatred for Rian Johnson that a lot of people do. Every director has their ups and downs. Let's not forget, Spielberg directed Crystal Skull. We don't vilify Spielberg because of what he did to Indiana Jones. We've actually, as a society, collectively decided to just not acknowledge that film even exists. For me, there are 3 Indiana Jones movies. What about the 4th one? Yeah, I'm not aware of that. I've seen it, but I'm not aware of it. It's okay. It's like when that cousin comes over for holidays and you're like, oh, I'll acknowledge you for a day, and then after this holiday, we won't see each other again, and that'll be fine. Yes, Crystal Skull is the redheaded stepchild cousin in your family, the black sheep. Rian Johnson did Looper. I enjoyed Looper. Looper had some really good moments. He directed Brick. I heard so many good things about Brick. And I watched it, and I was bored to tears. I simply didn't care what happened in that movie. I couldn't wait for it to end. Brick is like Cake. And Cake is by the guy who did The Kingsman. You know, that guy's a great director. But Cake couldn't stand it. Brick couldn't stand it. That's Varner. Matthew Varner, is that his name? So I went into Knives Out thinking, this is a good premise for a movie. It looks slick. It looks expensive. I love movies that look expensive because I don't have any money, and I love seeing it on the screen. My favorite is expensive science fiction. You know, like Prometheus, terrible movie, but God, it looked good. You know, very expensive costumes and consoles and ships and hardware. And Knives Out looks great. The house setting is amazing. The house set and the production design exceed the script. The movie looks better than it plays out. And that's unfortunate because it has a great cast. It has a lot of really good character actors. Even Frank Oz makes an appearance near the end. But I'll tell you what, Rian Johnson cannot write a movie. I don't know how this guy stumbled into big event pictures because he's right alongside Kurtzman and some of the others who write these big, messy, noisy, beautiful-looking films. And Knives Out is just one of those. It's utterly forgettable, and it's got performances that are just baffling. It tells the story of a very famous mystery writer who has a huge series of books, and he's going to die, so he has invited his family to his house to tell them all off so that he can write them out of his will. That's the plot. And then through a series of misadventures, mistakes, goofs, misdirections, he is inadvertently given the wrong medicine and knows that he has 10 minutes before he's going to die. So he makes it looks like he has committed suicide. And our plot is set in motion. And it's weird that for most of Knives Out, it is not a whodunit. Because subverting expectations, he tells us in the first 15 minutes who done it. The caretaker has given the wrong medication, even though she's completely credible and wouldn't make that mistake. So the movie, for most of its runtime, is how can she get away with this so that they don't pin a murder on her? And Christopher Plummer, the writer, he likes her so much that he has gone out of his way to make sure she is protected and that no suspicions are put upon her. And you know what? That's not a bad movie. There's a good movie in there. The problem is that the execution's so bad that people do these outlandish things. How she's going to get away with it involves her shimmying down drain pipes and everything except walking out into the public square, the front of the house, and saying, here is what happened. He's got 10 minutes to live. He's going to tell you what happened, and everything will be resolved. And I know that you can't have a movie if that's the case. You know, if Sarah makes the right turn and doesn't listen to the worm, she'll find the castle within the first 10 minutes of the movie. I get it. As a writer, I know how that's how it works. The problem is that Knives Out is enrobed in this goofiness. Daniel Craig shows up as the Poirier of the Agatha Christie detective who knows all and is like superhuman in his deduction skills, and he's going to figure out who done it. The problem is that, you ever see Lady Killers with Tom Hanks? It's a Coen Brothers movie. It's one of their smaller films. I went to the theater to see this. And I'll tell you what, it's one of the few movies I have come very close to walking out of. Tom Hanks' performance is so ridiculous and so annoying and grating that it took every ounce to just endure the movie. You don't watch Lady Killers. You endure it. And Tom Hanks is one of the finest actors we have. I don't know what is happening in that movie. He's doing a Colonel Sanders impression of sorts, and he's doing his best to make you hate him. Hey, mission accomplished. And Daniel Craig is doing the same thing in Knives Out. His detective is so bad. The accent is laughable. It's like watching a really bad community theater version of 10 Little Indians, and then there were none. It is terrible. I can't believe anybody watched the dailies of this movie and allowed it. You know how the Disney executives watched the dailies of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and they said, "Look, we don't know what Depp's doing, but we're gonna fire him, or we're gonna overdub his voice." And the director said, "Wait. Gore Verbinski said, wait, let's see how this plays out." And it was a gamble that paid off. Jack Sparrow is one of the most popular movie characters of the last 20 years. He is amazingly popular because of Depp's performance. Now, Little Nicky, Adam Sandler did a voice in Little Nicky that was so bad the studio demanded that it be overdubbed because they said, we can't understand what he's saying. Knives Out, he comes off so bad. It's like he's reading. He's so amateurish. I can't believe it because Daniel Craig is a good actor. This is a stunningly bad. This is almost a, what's those awards? The Razzle, the Raspberry, the Razzies. It's almost a Razzies level performance. It's so unbelievably bad. If Cats hadn't come out, then Knives Out, Daniel Craig would have been a shoo-in for worst actor in a movie. There's also this bizarre plot point where the main character who is being suspected of the murder, we know she didn't do it. The main character can't tell a lie or she vomits. Let me let that sink in. I don't know if that's a real affliction or not. I honestly don't care because not everything is a movie plot point. But if that's for real, it doesn't belong in a movie. If Rian Johnson made it up, somebody should remove any objects that can help him write a script from his possession. She vomits every time she lies, so she can't lie. So we have this weird version of Liar, Liar. In Liar, Liar, where the judge keeps asking Jim Carrey all these questions, and he has to come up with lines that will work either way, and it's very clever. This movie has none of that. Not even close. Not even, you ever watch Dexter, where he basically says to people he's a serial killer, but he says it in a way that they don't understand the double meaning? This movie has none of that cleverness, and it actually shows her vomiting multiple times. I don't need to see that. Vomiting scenes don't do anything for me, except maybe in Poltergeist 2 when he vomits up the giant worm. Other than that, I don't need no vomiting. I'm good. There's a vomit scene in Heathers. That's fine. This is just gross that she vomits every time she tells a lie. Have her blush. She turns bright red. Have her have a tell. Have the detective go, I knew that she was lying because her left eye twitched. And then he tells her, so she spends the whole movie trying not to make her left eye twitch. That's, I get it. That's drama. But the vomiting thing, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And this movie was so meticulously crafted where they built fake windows for eye reflections. And like I said, the production design is stellar. And for some reason, right in the middle of it, they have this discussion on class where they basically mention illegal aliens and MAGA hats. And I don't know what it was doing in there. Is it just another thing of all rich people are a-holes? Like, that's just such a cliche. You know, they should, if they're going to make them the villains, then give them mustaches to twirl. I didn't get it. I don't understand the injection of politics. It wasn't what the movie was about. It was a short scene. I guess it was supposed to put you firmly on the side of the housekeeper, which is odd because we were already on her side. She's a fun, nice person. She didn't mean to kill him. She's trying to get away with it, and she's trying to get away with it without any expectation that the dead guy is going to leave her something in his will. She has no desire or idea that that's going to happen for her. So it seemed odd that they keep piling on reasons to hate the other side. We get it. They're the rich bourgeois. We get it. They're the elite. They're 99%. Whatever. Oh, it's tedious. And then every actor gets a flashback as to why they're a suspect. It's like a really bad version of Clue. I think compared to Knives Out, Clue is a masterpiece because in Clue, the exposition is given very meticulously, very organically. It's not just flashback after flashback after flashback. And Wadsworth the butler in Clue, who acts as the detective, does it in a way that the audience is along for the journey. In Knives Out, we're not let in on any of the process. The character that Daniel Craig plays knows, and this is in the movie, he knows from the first scene that he's in that she didn't do it. He just knows, and everything he does in the film after that point, I guess he's playing along with her. At one point, he sits in the car while she goes in and is practically like there's a dead body and she's in trouble, and the real killer shows up halfway through to taunt her, and how is he going to get away with it? I'll tell you what. This movie made the worst mistake a movie can make. It made me not care. I simply didn't care. I felt like they took all those amazing actors and they just squandered their talents. From the top down, squandered. Man, give me that cast. Give me that house. I'll write you a murder mystery with enough twists and turns that your head will spin, and at the end it'll have to make sense because I won't turn in the script till it makes sense. And I don't think these movies do that anymore. I think they just get so excited for a poster design, a title like Knives Out. That's a great title. It's a fantastic title for relatives showing up to carve up the will. And in the end, the housekeeper, she's not even a housekeeper really. She's the assistant. She's the aide, the caregiver. She gets all the money and she sips her coffee as all of the other people are thrown off the property. And I couldn't wait for it to end. What a letdown. And then I watched a movie with the same plot. Murder in a Giant House. And that's the movie called Ready or Not. And Ready or Not, what a squandered premise. Oh man, this one, like Knives Out was just blah, blah, it was bland. Knives Out was a murder mystery bowl of oatmeal. Ready or Not was a really good breakfast with flavor and texture, and it just missed the mark. And it was so close to brilliant. Ready or Not could have been absolutely brilliant. It tells the story of a crazy family that runs a board game empire. It's like the Parker Brothers, or it's Milton and Bradley. And we're at their house, and one of the older sons has been ostracized and has left the family, but he has come back because he is getting married. And his bride-to-be is an orphan, and this is her first crack at getting admitted into a real family. And that's a great setup. And so You know what? It took 40 minutes of watching this movie to realize that that wasn't Margot Robbie in the lead role. I haven't seen two actors look that alike since Skeet Ulrich showed up looking like Johnny Depp, or Christian Slater did everything he could to be Jack Nicholson. This woman looks so much like Margot Robbie. If you didn't have a name, I would have told you it was Margot Robbie. So they get married. We have a great wedding sequence, and the plot kicks in. And the plot is, on the wedding night of any new person that enters the family, they have to play a game. And the game is they have to pull a card from a little gray box, and the card's going to have a game on it. And whatever the game is, they have to play the game. Okay, it's a silly family ritual. And any family that you've encountered, they all have their bizarre rituals. Rachel's family, one of their bizarre rituals was on Christmas, one of the uncles in the family was always given a piece of woman's lingerie as a gift. I've seen pictures where he's holding it up. It's not me to judge. Whatever floats your boat, that's your tradition. You know, some families open presents Christmas Eve. Some families open presents Christmas morning. Everybody's got their own thing. And I don't know why I went right to Christmas, but that's where most family traditions begin and end. This family has a tradition of playing this game. And the new groom offers the new bride multiple opportunities not to play the game, to cut and run. But he never explains to her why she should take that option. And when you find out what the game is, you say, well, maybe he should have told her what was coming. You know, so she doesn't show up blind. I know they want to save it for the audience, but it would have been interesting to have him say, look, I'm going to explain what this is. And then they cut. So they cut to her sitting there about to take the card. She knows what's at stake. But they keep it secret way far into the plot. This is a perfect example of what anybody calls the 30-minute mark. At the 30-minute mark of most movies, you know what the characters are, what the problem is, and there's a catalyst event that sets everything in motion. For Ready or Not, it is the first death of the film. And so she picks a card, and the card is hide and seek. They play this goofy record that sounds like the Hokey Pokey, but it's about hiding and seeking. And so she runs off in her bridal gown to play hide and seek. She's having a goof, because it's stupid that a bunch of grown people would want to play hide and seek on a wedding night. And so she discovers at the 30-minute mark that if they find her, they're going to kill her. So somebody dies at the 30-minute mark, somebody you weren't expecting, so that you get the idea that everybody is serious about this, that death is going to come for them. So the movie is her trying to get away, her trying to hide in this enormous mansion where all of these people who, in the room where they pick the card, pick a weapon off the wall and set out to go kill her. That's, again, like Knives Out. That's a great premise for a movie. It's a genius premise for a movie. It's the execution, pardon the pun, that everything goes awry, because what they're trying to do is set up that this girl is resilient because she grew up as an orphan, so she had to fend for herself. Now, there's nothing like this in the movie. I'm adding this all to the movie. Because I want the movie to be better than it is. So I'm adding all this to it. Like, she must have been in the foster system and had to fight for things, and nothing was given to her. So she's going to fight these MFers trying to kill her and show them that she can't be taken down. That's a great premise for a movie. The movie's not exactly that. She sets off trying to hide through the house. We're introduced to a series of secret passages used by the help to serve things in rooms. They're peeped on while they're trying to have sex. And eventually, she ends up back in the weapons room, takes a weapon off the wall. Now she's armed. So she's going to shoot the butler, who's a complete a-hole and sings classical. She's going to shoot him, blow the door open, and leave. And you're like, oh, this is good. I want to see where this is going. And when she tries to shoot him, it doesn't work. And he says to her, the weapons on the wall are for decoration only. You're like, dude, I'm watching the movie. Are you watching the movie? Because everybody trying to kill her took a weapon off the wall. And now wait, hers doesn't work? Hers is the only one that doesn't. It was the first moment in the film I went, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Have the gun jam. Have her not know how to load it. Have her remember in Die Hard with a Vengeance, Sam Jackson tries to shoot Jeremy Irons, and he goes, look, you've got the safety on, dummy. Takes the gun, takes the safety off, shoots Sam Jackson in the leg. It's a great turnabout moment. Have that happen. She pulls the trigger, nothing happens, and he's like, you idiot, you have the safety on, and he punches her, takes the gun. Instead, he goes, it's for decoration only, which again is stupid, because they all took their weapons off the wall. The sword, the crossbow, the gun, the everything. Dumb. So, what we don't know at the time is she's going to end up battling this butler more than anybody in the film. That's the other weird thing is, why is she battling the butler and not the actual people? Because, like the Hunger Games, you can't have the main character killing people, or she loses her sympathy. So Katniss had to watch people die by other means. Katniss in Hunger Games can't be the aggressor and just start mowing people down, or we don't want her to win because she's a murderer. You know, don't get me started on that horrible character in Picard who murders a guy and then has a happy ending. Sorry, not buying it. Do you guys watch your own crud? So in Ready or Not, everybody is killed or undone or maimed because they won't just let her go. She's doing her best to get away, and they're relentlessly pursuing her. So when they are overzealous and get hurt, it's their own fault. I get it. That's a great turnabout. That's how you do good scripting, right? So our bride character ends up in the barn for some reason. She's trying to she's left the house. She can't get off the grounds. So she's in the barn. And there's this rule that they have to kill her before sunrise. That's the whole plot of the film. They have to kill her before sunrise or something bad's going to happen. And we're not told what it is. We think the whole movie that these people are just crazy. It's another cult movie. They're zealots in a cult, and they're going to kill this girl. And why doesn't she just call the police? Now they go far into scripting to keep her from getting a cell phone, calling the police, yada yada yada. She ends up in the barn. There's a lot of goats there. She falls into a pit of skeletons. She has to claw her way out. Before that, a little boy shows up and shoots her through the hand. She clubs the kid senseless. She falls into a pit, and then she has to use her hollow, cut-out hand to go through a nail and pull herself up. I don't know if that was some sort of Christ analogy or not. You know, it's as subtle as a chainsaw if it is. If she's the Virgin Mary intertwined with the Christ imagery of putting a nail through your hand, I don't know. It was all played, like, she's a really good actress. It's played painful, and you get it. It's very painful. There were shades of Texas Chainsaw, of seeing all the victims there. It does beg the question. The movie opens with a groom being shot with a crossbow on his wedding night. And the two young boys growing up, the older one leaving at 18 and not coming back till he's a grown adult with a wife. I guess he assumes that in all the all the time that's passed, that all the other siblings have found mates. They have played this game and nobody has been killed, so it's safe to come back. You know, one girl makes a casual mention that she got chess to play. I don't know. But it does beg the question of, doesn't anybody call the police? And I'm not talking to the family, like outside the family. Doesn't anybody go, you know, I was there for Chuck's wedding, but I haven't seen Chuck. And Chuck hasn't shown up for work. And Chuck hasn't paid any bills. And Chuck hasn't written a movie at Blockbuster. And what happened to Chuck? They just sort of gloss over that. Like, I guess the idea is this family has so much money that they can buy off the police, and that the police aren't going to help them. But the police don't show up and like wink, wink, go, everything seems fine. Because, you know, in Clue, there is that scene where the policeman shows up and he ends up getting killed. But in this movie, I don't remember the police showing up and like, wink, wink, we know what's going on here, but you got enough money, we're going to let it slide. That would be a good twist. We've seen movies like that where the authority figures are in on it, so they're not going to be of any help, but we don't know that till it's too late. Interesting. So she claws herself out of the pit, and now she looks like John McClane at the end of Die Hard. She's completely bloodied and battered, and she has to squeeze through the bars of the fence. She cuts her back. She's in complete disarray. And I think she's heard them say that they have to kill her before sunrise for this all to matter, for whatever reason. So I guess I just thought to myself, well, an average sane person would just hunker down, would find a tree with a pile of leaves, would hide in the leaves. She's not wearing a tracker of any kind. And if she just has to make it to sunrise, then there's a million places to hide in the forest. And instead they send the butler, so she has to battle the butler, and she overtakes him, and she beats the crap out of him, and then she gets his car, and then she calls OnStar. This is very clever that she calls OnStar. I thought it was really clever. It's a frustrating scene because OnStar isn't any help. That's the point of the scene, so it works. But then the butler gets her, and we've been told numerous times by the patriarch of the family, the guy who played Kittredge in Mission Impossible. He's a good actor. He's very good in everything that he does. He was on Revenge. But he has said multiple times that the future of their family depends on her dying before sunrise. Like it's the most important thing. And the first 90% of the movie, they are shooting, crossbowing, hatchets, mace, sticks, you name it, anything to kill this woman in cold blood as quickly and as efficiently as possible. I think if you're watching the movie, you get the idea that they want her dead in an hour or less so they can go back to their lives. And they don't care what the groom says. They just want her dead. Okay, that's important. So the groom spends the movie trying to convince them not to kill her, and also to save her by showing up in cat scare moments where, you know, a hand comes into screen and the music goes, "Bah!" And it's just me. I'm trying to save you from this moment. Let me go this way. And he ends up handcuffed to a bed and trying to saw his way through the banister. Like, it's really frustrating. It's frustrating because whenever somebody is handcuffed in a movie, they are immediately debilitated. They cannot move. They cannot get away. They cannot do anything. And all this guy has to do, literally, is stand up. He's not encumbered anyway from standing up and then getting leverage to just yank himself and the chains off of that stupid bed. I kept waiting for, like, what am I missing? Why hasn't he just gotten up? They never even talk about it. It's movie, being captured in a movie. I can't stand it. It's so silly. So he's hemming and hawing and trying to toe the family line and also save his bride-to-be. I get it. He's going to dismantle the video cameras throughout the house, the security system. He's the one that gets the doors open and let her get out. He is doing his best to help her, even though he's also trying to keep the peace in his own family. But see, he knew this was going to happen. So we quickly run out of sympathy for this guy. You know that in the context of the story they're trying to tell, he's not going to be the white knight at the end because he's been useless this whole movie. He can't all of a sudden show up at the end as the hero. That would be stupid. She needs to save herself. Okay? That's an important part of this, is that she save herself. The butler beats her, ties her up, puts her in the back of the truck, the limousine, and drives her back to the house. There's a great sequence where he makes a video call and the people on the phone can see that she's awake and going to attack him. That's, again, using technology in a proper way in a thriller. I was really like, okay, that's a great sequence. It's the kind of sequence I would love to have written because it makes sense. The music's too loud. He can't see that she's behind him. The people on the phone can see. That's all really clever. But just when she's about to get away with the help of the groom's brother, she's captured. And it's frustrating in that, again, they've said the whole movie that she has to die before sunrise. And you know that in movie time, the hours are going by. The hours are going by. And so they're getting closer to sunrise. So if that's truly the end game, and they've done it before because we saw it at the beginning of the movie. At the beginning of the movie, they just shoot that guy. They play hide and seek for a few minutes, they shoot him, and they move on with their lives. So why at this stage do they have to, instead of just shooting her in the head, they have to perform a satanic ritual? It's something to do with appeasing some devil god because they haven't killed her sooner, but the rules are never stated to us other than she has to die before sunrise. Not that there's varying degrees of how long it takes to kill her, how many people die in the process, how hard she fights back, none of that. So when they don't just shoot her, you're left with a cult version of the talking villain, where they're going to talk for a while and give her time to get away. You know, it's like James Bond. But in James Bond, it's forgiven because that's the formula. This movie hasn't done any of that. They've never said that they're going to perform a satanic ritual to kill her. They just said they were going to kill her, that she needed to be killed. So they tie her down to a table, and they're going to slit her throat in some satanic ritual. Of course, she finds a way to get away. Somebody helps her. At this point, I didn't even care because the movie had broken so many of its rules. And she gets up, and it's too late. The sun has come up. And so they all stop and look at each other like, okay, nothing happened. So maybe she doesn't have to die, but she has to die because she's witnessed them murdering all these people. They've tried to murder her. They've tortured her. They've beat her. They've kidnapped her. So somebody's going to jail or somebody's going to die or a combination of both. And then the patriarch of the family explodes. In a burst of blood, he explodes. And then one by one, all of the members of the family explode except the groom. Because whatever deal they made with the devil to have a successful board game company, now the payment is due because they didn't offer a sacrifice. So in the end, it became a lot like Cabin in the Woods, which you know how much I love Cabin in the Woods. This had a Cabin in the Woods variation. I applauded them for the supernatural element at the end. I thought, oh, that's pretty good. And they're really going batshit crazy at the end in killing these people. And then the groom, the groom doesn't die. And he's standing there because he's still married to her, and she's the protector. So she takes her wedding ring off, calls him a bunch of names, and he explodes. Then she turns and sees literally this movie's representation of the devil sitting in a chair, and then he vanishes. It was a lot like when you see the screaming man in Lost. So then she goes out, sits on the pavement as the cops arrive because the building's on fire, and the movie ends. I thought, okay, that's a pretty good movie. Other than the stupid not killing her part, or not telling me, the audience member, that, she has to have a satanic ritual, all of that worked for me. But because I'm a writer, here's, again, what do I always say on the show? You got to review the movie you got, not the movie you wanted. But here's a way that Ready or Not could have been flawless. It could have been a cult classic of the nth degree. The movie's about a family that makes board games, and how the original founder of the company literally made a deal with the devil so that his board games would be popular and that he would have success as long as whenever anybody got married, they played a game. And if the game came up hide and seek, somebody died. Like, the devil in this version is very specific. Like, he has very specific rules. It's not, you can't die in chess or tiddlywinks or any of the other games you could play, Parcheesi. You die only in hide and seek. Only hide and seek contains the death element. Like, that's so darn specific. And the part that really frustrated me was that all this information is delivered by the patriarch in a exposition scene that goes on way too long with nothing showing us. He literally stands there for 4 or 5 solid minutes telling this story of how the company was founded, the box, the game, the promise they made to play it, without any flashbacks. And I'm sure they must have had a discussion of, do we show all this? Does it give away too much? I get all that. Here's the way it could have been perfect, is that you make the bride character, she's an orphan, she grew up alone, maybe she grew up without friends, or her friends were all jerks, but they all played a version of Clue that company put out. Maybe it was called Ready or Not. Maybe there's a game called Ready or Not that's a hide-and-seek game where you have to hide from other characters on the board because everybody's trying to kill everybody else. Make the board game element the overlay of the movie, right? And when she gets to the house for her wedding, she's amazed that the house is what they based the board game on. So Ready or Not, the board game that she played as a kid, is modeled on the house, and that all the rooms that she walks, she's like, oh, this is the weapons room. I remember this from the game, and I remember that from the game. So that, and here's the clincher, so that when she pulls the hide and seek card, and it's not hide and seek, it's the Ready or Not card, because it's based on not hide and seek, but the Ready or Not board game about hide and seek. She is skeptical at first, has fun with it until the 30-minute mark, somebody dies, but then she, in her mind, realizes, I've played this game before as a kid, and I always won. And she knows the house and the secret passages and the weapons and the twists and the turns better than the people who run the company, because they're lackadaisical, because they run the company but they don't know the game. And she grew up with no friends playing that game or playing it ruthlessly. So when she plays it, yeah, of course she gets beat up and shot and all that. But she's better at it than them. And she turns the tables at every moment because she knows that the fireplace swivels around and that if you pull the boar's tooth, a secret passage opens behind the pantry. Like, all of that. That's the movie I wanted. And I'm bummed that they didn't see that in their own film. Like, that's such a good twist on it. Because when you watch Clue and you go to all the rooms and all the passages, you know it because you've played it. Now, they weren't going to do that because they don't own Clue. They're playing their own version. But Clue, one guy dies in Clue, and you figure out who done it. And the movie added a few more bodies so that they could have a few more twists and turns. But the game of Clue, you have to find out who killed Mr. Body. So in hide and seek or Ready or Not, the game is kill or be killed in a game of hide and seek, unlike anybody else's. And that's why the board game is so popular, because there's all these weapons, and each character picks a weapon and has to go do something diabolical with that weapon. So we see her playing the game, and maybe like Jumanji, the movie has this board that we see every once in a while, and you see the pieces moving into the next rooms, and they represent the characters in the movie and the weapons that they, I'm just spitballing, because what movies that miss the mark do for me is they force me and they excite me in a way that what about this and what about that, and that would have been cool. Because I've had an idea for a screenplay for years where a video game designer designs this game that's amazing about traversing a skyscraper, like a Die Hard type game, and the company's founder locks him out. And in order to win, he has to play his game for real in the real world, on the real, like the building is the building that he works in, and they captured his girlfriend. It's all hazy for me because I never sat and wrote it down. It's just an idea. But Ready or Not was like, it could be like that. It could be like that. So, again, you got to review the movie that you wanted. I mean, the movie that you got, not the movie that you wanted. Knives Out was a colossal disappointment. I'm really shocked that so many people liked it. They liked it, I guess, because it looked slick, and it did look slick, but I was bored to tears. And the throw-up vomit thing and Daniel Craig's accent just drove me up the wall. And Ready or Not it missed so many good opportunities. Like so many things it could have done using games. Maybe there's a house built on games. So maybe at one point she throws jacks on the floor and they can't move through the room because the jacks hurt. Or, they use pickup sticks and jump ropes and Chinese checkers and Chinese jacks and, all the things that we played as kids with games, and they come into play in this as totally different new things. All of what could have been. Well, it was nice to sit down and just talk movies. I wanted to talk a third movie, but I'm out of time and I'm out of breath. I watched that horrible Harley Quinn movie, and I got a lot to say about that piece of crap. Oh my goodness, it was bad. But hey, I'll save that for another day because I got nothing but time on my hands. It's nice to get back to a little normalcy. It's nice to get back to doing the show I set out to do. I don't mind the others. They're keeping me going. This one is keeping me sane. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Jeff Tucker, and this is the Sanity propping up show known as 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
Hey! I'm getting a little tired of this.
You volunteered, didn't you? We're paying you, aren't we?
Yeah, but I didn't know you were going to be giving me electric shocks.